Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. You join us on the back of the second victory against Chelsea Football Club, the second one in a week. There's a story for you. At the moment, it is just myself and Joe, but hopefully we will soon be joined by our correspondent from Dagan and Phil. So hopefully he's just sort of waking himself up now and coming to join us on this very important podcast. Hopefully we might be joined by Dagan at some point later in the show as well. But before we are joined by our worldwide team of Albion experts, let's talk to Joe about how Joe is. Joe, how are you, mate?
I am doing wonderfully well, Tom. As you say, on the back of a lovely week, the perfect response to a very disappointing result 13 or so days ago. But yeah, feeling good, mate. How are you?
Yes, mate. I'm doing very well. It's, as you say, it's been a fantastic turnaround from that disaster against Nottingham Forest. We have asked for some questions, and there are a few questions about how the team have sort of turned that around as the coaching staff as well. So as we are on a live pod, drop your comments, your thoughts, and your questions down. We have started doing a Q&A session at the end of these shows now, which is great. I've got loads from Blue Sky, got some talking points from the good people at North Stand Chat as well. So we will we'll get into it. Let's talk then, Joe. I wasn't on the previous podcast where we talked about the FA Cup. I'm not going to dwell on the point too much, but for me, the team picked itself after that win against Chelsea earlier in the week. The only change that I was expecting was Dunkey to come out, which happened. Webster being the only change in our starting 11. But I just wanted to really quickly, Joe, talk about Bart Verbrugge. Obviously, he had that absolute howler in the opening minutes against Chelsea, gifting them a goal. Not for the first time this season, Bart Verbrugge being directly responsible for a goal conceded. A lot of chat before the match about whether he should be on the bench, and maybe Carl Rushworth, who's been brought back from his loan stint at Hull, whether he should be in the squad as a starting goalkeeper. When you saw Verbruggen's name on the team sheet, Joe, were you surprised? Were you just like, yeah, he's our number one? How did you feel about Verbruggen keeping his place?
Yeah, no issues whatsoever. As you say, he's our number one, and he's someone that should be trusted 100% and should be backed when they make mistakes as well. I don't think it's does anyone any good, especially for a young player, to sort of throw them under the bus and say that they should be dropped because of one mistake. When you're a goalkeeper, obviously a mistake leads to a goal 9 times out of 10. And I think it's just unfortunate and a big learning curve for him. He needed to step up a little bit because Ronald Koeman was there watching yesterday as well. Keeping a clean sheet in front of the national manager as well, and obviously Jan-Paul van Hecke in front of him as well, impressing. So I fully expect to see them, and especially Bart Verbruggen, still as Netherlands number one, and will always be our number one until eventually his ceiling is so high that you just expect him to be picked up by a giant of Europe at some point. But yeah, that's why for me he has to be in the net for us. He's saved us more than he's hindered us this season and last. So yeah, big respect to him.
Yeah, more than fair enough. And I'm just going to say this before Phil gets on, because I'm going to have a bit of a slag off about Matty Ryan. The only thing I will say is that I don't think any position should be. Damn it! Hi, Phil. I'm definitely not having a pop at your countryman Matt Ryan.
Finish it off. Go on.
And the only thing I would say is that I don't think any player's position, no matter who you are, whether you're the captain of the team, goalkeeper, striker, whatever, I don't think anyone's position should be untouchable. And that's what we saw with Matt Ryan towards the end of his tenure at the club. He was putting in poor performances, and he wasn't getting rotated out. So there was no pressure on him to improve. So the only thing I would say is with Verbrugge. I know that, as you're right, Joe, when goalkeepers make mistakes, it's a lot more noticeable when the defenders, midfielders, etc. But moving forward, I think if we can see consistent clangers from him, I would like to think that Fabian will eventually roll the dice and be like, "No, you need to come out of the firing line, just as much as for his benefit as anything else." So that's the only thing I would say about Bart Verbruggen. Just don't keep him in the firing line if he doesn't need to be there. Hello, Phil. You've not missed anything. We've just done the introductions and we've just talked really briefly about Bart Verbruggen coming back into the squad, even though he made that clanger, that howler against Chelsea. So I'll get your 2 cents on it. Bart Verbruggen, undisputed number one. At what point, if any, does his position in the team sort of come under threat?
Yeah, I was. Can you hear me? Am I coming through? Yeah, I was surprised to hear that there was any suggestion that he should be removed after that one, incident. I mean, not one incident, right? But I just think he's so clearly our number one right now. So that's why I was a little bit surprised by it. It would take a fair bit more, for me to even sort of consider making that move, and obviously with still injured right now as well, like it'd be a huge punt to go to Rushworth for some of these huge games. So I was quite surprised to see some of that chatter online, to be honest. But I mean, does any chatter online surprise anyone anymore?
No, not at all, unfortunately. This is just your regular reminder that Carl Rushworth, when he was on loan at Worthing, was scouted by Barcelona. So yeah, just going to get that in there real quick. The rest of the team, I think, just picks itself at the moment, Joe. I think, we've long since, there was a couple of question marks a few weeks ago about why Jorginho Ruta wasn't starting. But for me, Joe, and this is one of the talking points that some people have put in, one of them being from CB Seagull via Blue Sky, with Albion sort of seemingly back to their normal selves again, barring injuries. Is this the starting 11 you'd expect to see moving forward? So just a reminder of that 11, Verbruggen in goal. Then yesterday, I don't think it was a back four. It was more of a back five, but I'll go with a back four of Veltman, Van Hecke, Webster, Lamptey, then midfield, Minter, Hinchelwood, Baleba, Mitoma with Ruta and Welbeck. Is that the strongest 11?
Yeah, but I also am always someone that is an advocate for using the squad. I think we've got a lot of quality that was sat on the bench yesterday, especially. Obviously with João Pedro coming off the bench, Diego Gomez looking like he's going to be a real talent for us and certainly make a claim to be starting in midfield at some point. In terms of if you was to ask me to pick a strongest 11, I don't think it would be far away from what we've seen. Obviously, maybe with either Kadioglu or Estupiñán in for Lamptey. But then again, Lamptey has been excellent, and that just proves my point of needing such a deep squad. Because when you do get these injuries, and Lamptey being one of our, what would you say Lamptey is? Third choice fullback?
He's probably third choice right back behind Veltman and Hinchelwood, and probably third choice left back behind Purvis and Kadioglu.
And he's just put in a man of the match performance in the FA Cup against his former club, and then did pretty much exactly the same on Friday. So yeah, incredible to have this squad, and obviously Adam Webster coming in as well. Absolutely excellent. Who would have thought that Adam Webster would be included in a strongest 11 at this stage, and Dunkey being omitted. But as I say, that's why squads are so important. Obviously, Rutter's fantastic. João Pedro's been fantastic at times. Solly March is hopefully coming back again soon. So yeah, we're blessed to have a deep squad.
That's been a bit of a sticking point, hasn't it? Right now, just given, I mean, there's this irony that 2 weeks ago against Forest, we literally had one midfielder to pick from. But at the same time, now we've got about 5 or so, and there's talk of, I read an Andy Naylor piece the other day, which was sort of summing up the conversations that are being had among fans, that we might not be too far away from a couple of guys being unhappy because they're not getting the opportunity. So that there's appetite for any type of Europe football next season for that reason alone, assuming we don't, wave goodbye to a couple of players in the summer.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I was about to say exactly the same, Phil, because I saw the same piece as well. That's reasons why we've seen Enciso go out on loan, why Ferguson's gone out on loan as well. It's just a sticking point, as you say, because a couple of weeks ago, Gomez looked gassed after 45 minutes against Forest. We had O'Reilly on the bench, but yeah, we sort of seemed very thin on the ground without Baleba and Ayari. But now this weekend we've had 5 central midfielders like ready and raring to go, with Avifa returning to the bench. So it's a constant juggling act, and a few people in the comments talking about Herzler, and I see you, Doom, and I see you, Tom. We will talk about those points in a little while, because I've got some thoughts on this, and myself and Joe have been having this discussion today. But before we do that, I'm going to bring up something that we have brought up before. It was something that was quite an interesting chat on North Stand chat. And the question goes like this: are we better without Lewis Dunk? So I'm going to read you some stuff. So games started this season 17, won 5, drawn 7, lost 5. So that's 22 points, average 1.29 points per match. He's missed 6 games, 3 of which we've won. We've drawn 2, we've lost 1. 11 points, average 1.83 points per match. When he's started, Lewis Dunk, goals conceded 30, which is 1.76 per match. The games he's missed, we've conceded 7, which is 1.17 per match. So statistically, we are better without Dunk, but of course the sample size is a lot smaller. I have been a bit of an advocate this season of Lewis Dunk not coming straight back into the squad because he's the captain. I think he didn't deserve to replace Igor, and I don't think he deserved to replace Adam Webster a few weeks ago, and now he's injured again. When he does return, I don't think he deserves to jump straight back in. So an interesting one for you to mull over, Joe and Phil, and viewers as well. What do we think, Joe? I mean, Lewis Dunk, he's obviously a stalwart, and no one can take away what he's done for the club. No one can take away the journey he has been on. But it does look, this season in particular, that we might actually be slightly better without Dunk on the pitch.
Yeah, and the margins in the Premier League are so small, aren't they? We probably haven't seen a fully fit Lewis Dunk. We probably didn't see a fully fit Lewis Dunk go into the Euros at the end of last season. And obviously people were shocked that he did get picked for that squad as well. And considering people call it a drop-off, I just think he's just battling with a lot of injury problems that he's just sort of nursed throughout his career. And now maybe age is just catching up with him a little bit. I'm not saying he's done. I'm not saying he's not worthy of being a Premier League footballer anymore. I'm just saying that maybe we're seeing the margin shift, that a slightly younger Adam Webster can come in and look a little bit better because Lewis Dunk's suffering. So yeah, it's a really difficult one, because you don't want to say anything against your captain. You don't want to say anything against someone who's given so much of his life to the football club and achieved so much with us. But I certainly see the seasons starting to shift of, we do need to think of a more long-term Lewis Dunk replacement going forwards, whether that would be Van Hecker, who takes that leap and then has someone younger next to him to learn off of. Is he ready for that yet? I don't know. But yeah, we're seeing the season shift, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's definitely an argument out there for saying for the last 18 months or so, Dunk's been struggling with injuries, and I think who was it? Tom, you've just said think he needs a rest to get back to full fitness. Seems to be playing catch up all the time. I 100% agree. You know, he comes back from an injury, he's thrown straight back into the team because he's the captain. But he's at an age now where injuries take. I say he's at an age now. He's only in his early 30s. But of course, as I'm sure you know, myself and Phil can tell you, the injuries you sustain from running or from whatever it is, physical activity, they're a lot easier to recover from when you're in your 20s, and then suddenly hit 30s and things start to slow down in terms of your
Suddenly you
recovery.
hit 36 and you've had your second hip replacement.
I shouldn't laugh because that's
I'm 30 this year, guys. You're not selling this to me very well, are you?
no, yeah, you hit 30 and it's all downhill from there. Everything just seems to take a lot longer to get better. Just even a twisted ankle, it's like, oh, I can be back on that in a couple of hours too. 5 weeks later, I still can't run on it. But yeah, I think that's what we've done with Dunk. I think we've rushed him back each time because we need him in the squad. We need his leadership. But I mean, Phil, I don't know how you feel about this, but I've actually thought we looked more solid when we had Van Hecker and Igor, and again Van Hecker and Webster. And again, I know the sample size is smaller, but just like my eye test, I felt at times this season a bit more comfortable with those pairings than when Dunk's come back into the squad. What do you make of it all, Phil?
I agree. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said, and obviously we're very quick to sort of overreact to everything. But I think it would be a fair comment to say that Lewis Dunk, a version of Lewis Dunk that isn't at full fitness, is not in our best starting 11 anymore. I think that's a very reasonable thing to say at this point in his career. So yeah, they obviously went out and brought in Cashin in January as sort of some cover for the Igor injury, but also just some depth there at the back, and maybe it wasn't just for the I don't ever like clubs going out and buying in January just because one dude got injured in the in that month before. Like that, you always should be looking further ahead with these transfers, particularly in January when you're going to be overpaying. So maybe that was just one little sign that they do know that the end is closer than the start with Dunk, and that probably does need to be the reality. We need to get to a point where Dunk plays if he's rock hard fit, and if he's not, then he's probably not worth taking the risk, at least not to start a game, and maybe he's on the bench as injury insurance. But I think we've reached that point, and we've seen little kind of snippets publicly recently about the kind of leader that Van Hecker is behind closed doors in those rooms. I know they've been kind of throwing the armband around between Welbeck and even Webster at times. I'd just be giving it to Van Hecker now. I just think he looks so ready to take over that leadership role. It kind of feels like he's been sort of the guy in waiting as it is anyway. He absolutely bleeds blue and white, and all indications are he seems ready. I think I mean they probably don't want to do that kind of transition process in the middle of a season, so I can kind of understand that as well. But doing that just kind of will take a little bit of the pressure off the Lewis Dunk situation as well. You properly thank him for his services as captain, make it very clear that he's still a member of this squad, but then it can just be about, all right, Dunky, get yourself right. We're not going to rush you back into the team because you're captain, and we can start. We can fix it. We can start to fix this process.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Phil, especially with your assessment about mid-season. But yeah, it's I'm going to paraphrase Cher. Do you believe in life after Dunk? Yeah, there will be life after Dunk. Vicky, you need to chill your beans and get in line, sister, because she has said, "Oh my God, Phil, your top is stunning, and so are your eyes." Get in line, Vicky. Get in line. But no, I think Andrew's just said it in the comments as well. We've got a lot of pressure with injuries, but we show how good we can be. One of the comments we actually received on Blue Sky was from Yankee Seagull saying, "Were we fortunate enough having our injuries early on because it seems we're getting healthier whilst other teams are hurting?" I mean, Joe, Chelsea, no recognised striker on the pitch yesterday. Cole Palmer was playing up top, and they looked absolutely toothless.
Yeah, and I was on Talk Sport before the game, and I was alongside a Chelsea fan, and he was saying as much, that without a striker, without a focal point, they just have no idea. I predicted a 3-1 win for the Albion, and he laughed at me and said, "Do you really think we're going to score?" I thought maybe it might be another Bart Verbruggen howler, but not
there are a couple of decent Chelsea fans out there. Only a couple. Only a couple.
Exactly. And I was on with one of them. He was a really nice guy, to be fair to him. So shout out to him and the Chelsea Echo podcast. But I'm sure they're up in arms about the result at the moment, which is quite funny. Yeah, I mean, injuries are things. I forgot the question.
Are we lucky to have? Were we lucky to have our injuries when we did? Whereas now we've got players coming back and other teams are sort of dropping off. I mean, just in Ahmad, he's out for the season. Jackson's out for Chelsea for quite a while.
Akanji, Havertz.
Yeah, Havertz is out.
Yeah, obviously a lot of football's been played, and it's a really important time of the season to put stuff together. And I think we've spoken, especially on here in previous seasons, Tom, about our sort of December, January dip, season on, season out. And hopefully we're seeing the back of that, and we can get a few of our players back and fire on for a strong second half of the season. I don't see any reason why we can't.
Yeah, let's hope so. I've never known anything quite like it. The last few seasons have been really predictable. Start strong, get rubbish around Christmas, whimper in the new year, then end strong.
It's because there's so many fixtures around.
Yeah,
this time of year. Well,
and it's cold as well. Your muscles
so many cups.
When it's cold. Yeah. We've been doing this now for 22 minutes, and I've made you all wait because we all know why we're here. We all want to talk about Mitoma. We all want to talk about Mitoma doing something that, if you were Dennis Bergkamp, who, by the way, is one of my favorite players of all time, Mitoma did something that I would expect from Bergkamp, Ronaldinho, Berbatov, Messi, some of the greatest, ball controllers, for want of a better phrase, that you can name, the ones that have the best first touch. That pass from Bruggen over the top, route one, over your shoulder, was absolutely disgusting. It was like, as I say, it was like being back in the 90s and watching Dennis Bergkamp do his thing, or Ronaldinho do his thing, or watching Messi make the MLS look a bit silly. That's what it was like. It was a thing of absolute beauty. And then to pull it inside Chabala and then put it past the goalkeeper, who may have felt that he could have done a bit better, got a fingertips to it. Just Phil, just war.
Speechless. And the throw was perfect. I think that kind of sums it up, honestly. The touch, the turn, the finish. I mean, it'll win goal of the month. It has to be a contender for goal of the season, surely. You'd have to think. It was just unbelievable. I don't believe any person on human earth has watched it more than Joe. So let's get your thoughts.
I have watched it a disgusting amount of times, Phil. Honestly, my wife is like, "Joe, you need to do this. You need to do that." I'm like, "No, watching Mitoma. Sorry." I mean, we captioned it on Blue Sky. We posted a picture of Mitoma taking it out of the air, and we said it's the filthiest touch this Valentine's Day. So yeah, it was just ridiculous. I mean, Doom saying in the comments that people laughed at us that we wouldn't take the Saudi money. I mean, we've spoken so much about how important Karim Mitoma is and has been for this football club. Been reported that he doesn't want to leave this football club and he wants to stay here. He loves the club. So it couldn't get much better when you see him dump Chelsea out the cup, and then 25 minutes into the Premier League tie, he does it again. Just incredible. Yeah, words fail me.
Yeah, it was genuinely spectacular. And just Rod, as you said, interesting. The club rejected 90 million for Mitoma. Always thought we sell players if the money is right. I think with Mitoma, there's a couple of things that are worth just mentioning. I know we all know them anyway, but obviously time of year, one of the most important players in our squad. We've often likened him in the sense of what he gets the crowd feeling like to Anthony Knockaert back in the Championship days. Because whenever Mitoma gets on the ball, you sense that something could happen. Doesn't always happen, doesn't always come off. And there was a couple of moments even in the game yesterday where Mitoma didn't make the right decision. But whenever he's on the ball, you just sense that something might. And also, he must be worth so much to the club in terms of, revenue and like interest from Japan. It must be worth millions, tens of millions. The interest that he must get from like that market. And I know it's not all about that, but if you've got a player who wants to stay and it's January, if that bid had come in the summer, we might have seen it accepted. But I think the club for now, there's no need to sell him. So it'd be interesting, Rodders, to see if they come back in the summer. But that touch, add another 10 million on, please, because that was, as I say, absolutely disgusting. But
it doesn't have to always only be about the transfer money, as you've sort of alluded to. Like, his importance to the club from the global sense is undeniable. And there's no like-for-like comparison with NBA to football, but we just saw Luka Doncic get traded from the Dallas Mavericks, one of the biggest sports stories in the last 12 months. And the fans have been revolting, like absolutely revolting in Dallas. Like, you go to one of their games and most of the people in the crowd have a 77 jersey on their back with Doncic on the top. You go to a game at the Amex, how many jumpers with a 22 are in the stands? Like, you can't put a price on that. So it was an absolute no-brainer. And the timing for him to produce that play a week after deadline day, chef's kiss.
Spectacular. I'd also be really disappointed if he went to Saudi. He's in the prime of his career.
Exactly.
Why on earth would you go to that league? It's genuinely awful. Like, I know that they've got some big names over there, but the standard of football is shocking. I think on the Opta rankings, it's below League One. So why would you do that? It'd be like joining, Accrington Stanley or something daft like that. But you'd probably
get Sydney FC.
Yeah, you probably get paid more, to be fair, than Accrington Stanley. But anyway, yeah. We didn't have it all our own way, Joe, and I personally think we were lucky not to see Chelsea equalise. Cross whipped in, Fernandes gets ahead to it, and he does the slightest nudge on Joel Veltman, who goes down like a sack of spuds. Considering what happened in the Everton game when Joel Veltman went down very easily, I thought that was a bit of a risky move. But thankfully this time it paid off, and a foul was given. I personally think that was very soft.
That's what Joel Veltman does. We love it. Shithousery of its finest form.
But we didn't love it against Everton, did we?
No, we didn't. But it's give and take. Like, it's what he does. It's the risks that he takes to hopefully get this football club the result that they want to get. He's never going to do anything to spite us. And the way he fell down as well, there's like a screen capture of him like this, and everyone's like, yeah, he's doing his best impression of a seagull. So what's not to love? And it was two hands in the back, but
Oh, it was, but I think I said this before. I'd be embarrassed if one of my under-9s went down under that.
No, Tom, he pushed him so hard that he's still rolling on the floor right now.
Mate, we're not talking about Zaha here. We're talking about
true.
Yeah, I thought it was soft, but hey, I ain't complaining because at the end of the day, we got away with one there. But no, I mean, Chelsea didn't really offer much at all. It was very much the Brighton show, even though the possession stats didn't sort of indicate that. And I am going to talk about sort of all the stats and stuff and the style of play. towards the end. But before we get into any of that, I really want to talk about Yankuba Minte, because Phil, yesterday I thought Minte was more of a wing back. It was really interesting to see how we set up yesterday. It seemed like out of possession, it was very much a sort of 5-4-1, with Minte and Lamptey as wing backs, the three centre backs, and then Rutter was sort of covering the right hand side of the midfield. But in transition and in attack, Minte was pushing up, with his pace and the engine that man has is just ridiculous. The fact that he can run and run and run back and forth was insane. I really liked the shape we employed yesterday and the style of play, even though it wasn't the tiki-taka that we're perhaps used to. I really liked it. But Minte was just phenomenal. And I think, he was well deserving of his brace. Both times, we got to see Cucurella completely undone, which is always a bonus. So talk us through the first goal that he scored, Phil, with Colwell. No, sorry, not Colwell. That was the second goal. Rutter and Welbeck, some lovely interplay with the box. A cross comes in and Colwell does actually tap it in, and it hits Jorgensen, and Welbeck sort of plays it back. And Minte tucks it away. I was worried it'd be given for offside myself. But talk us through that first goal that Minte scored.
Yeah, he showed good, pardon me, good poise with that extra touch to get it back inside before putting it away as well. And it's been good to see Minte start to put the finishing touches on that finish as well, because I think when we all watched the highlights of Minte when he was signed back in the summer, there was so much to like about all of the way he was able to dribble and the control he had with the ball at his feet. But a lot of those highlights were a guy that was probably overplaying it in the box rather than just putting a shot on. And so you were worried that potentially he would become a player that sort of just, you'd be yelling, shoot, just shoot. But he seems to be figuring that part of his game out as well. He's obviously 2 yesterday, and nice composure on that goal as well. That little touch inside, and then to find that bottom corner. He's all class, and the way that look, defensively, this is really all you can ask for after, particularly off the back of the De Zerbi era. I want my players just screaming back when we lose possession. Let's just get bodies back there. You see Forrest do it. It's not rocket science. Like, it's really not. And I woke up this morning and quickly checked the highlights of the City and Newcastle game. And like, Newcastle kept like 4 or 5 clean sheets in a row off the back of this hunger to defend their goal. And they did not do that overnight against City. They were just wandering on back, and they got absolutely dismantled. And, that was just a really fresh example. So I thought I'd bring that up. But our players right now seem to have that want and that hunger to get back. And it's led by a guy like Minte, who has this incredible engine. He's obviously swift as all hell. And it's great to see, because those actions are contagious as well. And the guy that won't get the plaudits on this show is Hinshelwood, but his work in that midfield with Belabor as well, like all of those guys together right now have just turned us into, obviously we're still very fresh off the back of a 7-0 drubbing, but we're seeing the positive signs now of potentially how it works defensively.
Yeah, I think that it was really important to have 2 very solid defensive performances after what we saw against Forest. Obviously important, but and I think Minte, as you say, Phil, is at the heart of that, his willingness to track back. And that's why I think he makes a really good wing back, because he reminds me of Lamptey when Lamptey first started at the club, the up and downness of it all. And I've been an advocate of going to like a back 3 or a back 5 or whatever you want to attribute to it for all season. And as I say, I think this shape could really be effective. But we'll chat about shapes and tactics at the end of the show, or towards the end of the show, because we've got a couple of comments and questions from Blue Sky and other places as well. But Joe, talk us through the second goal then. This was when Colwell, bringing the ball out of the defence, gives it away, wants a free kick against, I think it was Welbeck. There's nothing in it. Some really nice interplay again. Minte plays a 1-2, completely just Sancho, ghosts inside Cucurella. His deflected strike goes past the goalkeeper. Lovely little brace for him.
Yeah, and watching from home as I was, unfortunately, I wasn't at the game. It took me a second to realise that it had actually gone in the back of the net and didn't sort of bounce off the advertising hoardings and hit the other side of the net. So yeah, like Tony was like, "Why aren't you celebrating, Joe?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, great. Obviously to see Cucurella in half as well, trying to defend, always amazing. I mean, for the first Minte goal, I think Cucurella literally folds himself in half trying to stop it. So yeah, seeing that frizzy hair go crazy, just hilarious. And I don't know what Colwell's moaning for. That is like, as you said, the push on Enzo was soft. But if that had been chalked off, that would have been even softer. Like, what, I don't know what he's doing. And I think a
Probably
lot
just
of
embarrassed. He's probably just embarrassed that he's been out muscled and he's looking for
yeah,
something because he knows he's out of position and he's caused the goal, really.
having watched and very gleefully watched all the Chelsea fan reactions, I saw a few of them saying that Colwell does that quite a lot. And it normally results in them either conceding a chance or conceding a goal. So a lot of them aren't very happy with him. I mean, Levi, if you want a safe place to come, you can always come back to the Albion.
Doesn't get in ahead of Adam Webster, though.
No, very true. But yeah, as for Yankuba Minter, I mean, just what a performance from him defensively, offensively. As you say, Phil, that first goal was like just shoot, just get out your feet, shoot. But yeah, I mean, he's a credit to himself, and it looks like another fantastic signing, and people questioning us with the amount of money, but I think he's repaying that along with Jorginho Rutter as well, who looks worth every single penny just for that smile alone. That damn smile.
Yeah, I love it when the admin gives him his phone at the end of a match, and you've just got Georgie on the pitch running around being mad, and then the tunnel cam is always great. I think, as you say, Joe, he's worth every penny just for his his personality. You need players like him and Baleba who are trickers, jokers. They keep it. You can rely. I can't imagine, like, let's say Milner. I can't imagine Milner cracks a smile much in training, but I reckon Baleba, Ruter as well. I reckon they're proper laughs to have on the training pitch. Welbeck as well. I reckon Welbeck's a proper.
Also, if you haven't seen it, go and watch Jorginho Rutter's FA Cup vlog, because he's vlogging now, and he's also on TikTok as well, doing all kinds of crazy and wonderful stuff.
While we're talking about pennies and pounds and whatnot, I just wanted to add this point quickly. The last 7 days could yield the club another 200 odd million if Todd Bowley's sitting back and going, I built this team. That team's better. Their manager's better. Their players are better. We better go out and sign some of these guys.
The thing is, I wouldn't put it past him, because he's like a quintessential toddler. They've got that toy. I want that toy. That's what he's like.
Were they not interested at one point in Billy Gilmore? And it was like all that joke of, now where did Brighton get Billy from?
That's probably what they're doing with Lamptey. They're probably like, that Lamptey fella, he's just pocketed Matey boy 2 games in a row. Where's he from? He's from our academy, mate. Get him back, would you? He's out of contact. He's out of contract at the end of this season. Give him 50 million. Just really quickly on Lamptey, I think we should renew his contract. I think give him another year. It's really difficult because we haven't seen Ferdy yet. Ferdy, I think, has obviously been brought in for reasons. He's played a handful of games, but with Lamptey, I've seen enough from him this season. I'm just amazed he hasn't been injured. I've seen enough of him this season for at least for me to kind of go, yeah, give him another season. See what he can do. Can he keep Purvis out? Can he keep Ferdy out? Because I like Purvis. I like Purvis a lot, and I love the relationship him and Mitoma have got on the left hand side. But if we go for like a more of a wing back system, I don't know if Purvis is the right player for that system. But again, we'll talk about more about that later. We almost scored another one, Joe, because Joel Veltman had a finish touched upon the post, hit the goalkeeper in the face, I believe. So that was good. Joel Veltman, not often known for his pace, but he broke the offside trap and came agonizingly close to making it 4. That would have been quite something.
I think it would have been chalked out for offside, if I'm completely honest. I think it would have slightly been off. But yeah, it would have been nice for Joel to get his one a season. Has he scored already this season? I can't remember.
Not that I recall. It's been a roller coaster of a season, and I can't
A
really
couple of
remember.
handy assists.
Yeah, true. Yeah, he's got a cross on him, that's for sure. Yeah, it would have been nice for Joel to get his one of the season against Chelsea, and really stick it into Cucurella and co. He had a fascinating battle against Cucurella in the FA Cup, especially, and it continued again. And Joel Veltman is the guy that is just going to battle and battle and battle for your football club. And yeah, every club would want a man like Joel Veltman. And yeah, who wouldn't want to see him score? So hopefully he gets one in the next few months.
Yeah,
I'll take the Veltman goal when it's 0-0 against Southampton in the 75th minute this week.
Oh yes, please. Yes, please. But before we talk about Southampton, let's round it up. I mean, it's my new thing. I've stopped doing player of the match. I've started doing like a pick a player, so you can talk about them in a good way or a bad way, whichever you wish. The only rule is you're not allowed to pick the same player as somebody else. I don't think we're going to get any negative ones today. I'm going to come to you first, Phil. If you had to pick one Albion player that really stood out to you for good or bad, who would you pick and why?
Yeah, look, there are obviously quite a lot to pick from. I'll probably, I mean, Baleba was just enormous in the midfield, and I don't know, like you do. If there are any concerns of losing anyone in the summer, it's probably this guy, because he just continues to show how important he is to our team. We've got a very recent example of that, obviously, when he wasn't there against Forest, and he was just dominant. I mean, to do what he did as well in a match literally against Moises Caicedo. I mean, is he not an upgraded version on what Moises was doing for us? I know maybe it's sort of recency bias, but he's just been unbelievable. He was that again for us on in that game the other night. I was trying to find, there was a good tweet somewhere which kind of highlighted some of his stats from that game, and I couldn't find it. But yeah, look, he's just an absolute, he's a man possessed through the middle, and he is the engine room. I know I gave praise to Hinshelwood as well. That is an elite combination right now. And yeah, Baleba's just been enormous for us, and he deserves the praise. There are plenty of others to throw out there as well, but the fact that he could be the one that we end up losing if we do lose someone in the summer, let's just appreciate what this guy does, because he's just world class, absolute world class.
Couldn't say any better than that, Phil. And you rightfully point out that he is the player in the summer that I think we'll see the vultures circling. Joe, you can't pick Baleba. Who is your player to pick?
Oh, such a difficult one. I'm just looking at the FOTMob ratings, and they're green, except for Jorginho Russell, who they only gave 6.3, lower than Cole Palmer. What a disgrace. I feel like giving it to Rutter just to spite FOTMob. Actually, I was going to mention Welbeck very quickly. 2 assists, incredible attacking. output, just proving that to be a striker, it's not all about the goal, it's about the link up with everyone else around you. But for me, Tom, I'm going to go for Adam bloody Webster. Colossus. Incredible.
Webdini is
Fantastic.
back.
Absolutely amazing to see the growth from him, the professionalism. I mean, we spoke about it when we were doing the podcasts about the Japan preseason tour, about how much of a lovely guy he is, but maybe it's his time to move on. He's just completely shut us all up. Completely. When called upon, especially in these last couple of months, flawless. Absolutely fantastic. And Dagan mentioned in the chat, there's a couple of times where he's caught out, but I think if you put any centre back in that situation, they'd be caught out as well. So for me, yeah, just brilliant when he has to be, clearing the ball, professional, just giving that level of calm into our back line when, would we expect Adam Webster to calm our back line down a couple of months ago? Probably not. And incredible.
I've long since said it about Webster. He is either prime Maldini or he's Steve from down the pub, their Sunday league team. It seems to be neither here nor there with him. And I'm so happy for him. I really am, because I really like Adam Webster as a human being. So the fact that he's sort of come back into the squad and put in some really good performances it makes me very happy. One thing I will like to say before I give you my pick is I can't tell you how much I liked the shape yesterday. And I know I promised I'd talk about the stats and stuff, and I will do that after I give you my spiel. What I really liked about playing sort of like the back five is it meant that one of Webster or Van Hecker could come out of the defensive line onto Palmer. And I thought that worked really effectively. Yes, there was one or two times where Palmer managed to get away from Webster and Van Hecker, but generally I thought both of them marshaled him really well. Because obviously the problem when you play like a two-man midfield or a centre midfield pairing is you don't often have that third man. But when one of the defenders is stepping up to put pressure on the danger man, Cole Palmer, because we know what he can do. I thought that worked really, really effectively. And I thought Van Hecker and Webster did that job really well, like we knew they could. I feel it feels a bit of a cop-out, but I've got to pick out Minter just because of his phenomenal work rate down that right-hand side, up and down like a yo-yo. Genuinely brilliant. And I think he's since, when was it, Everton that he didn't start because of he arrived late. And when he came on, he was one of the few players that could hold their head up high. Even against Forest, there were moments where he was tracking back. He's just had like 4 really good games on the trot, and it's really nice to see him getting his just desserts, I suppose. But just imperious yesterday. I've criticised his final ball a couple of times this season, and it was just perfect. Absolutely perfect performance from him. And I know a lot of plaudits will go to Mitoma because of that touch, but I just think, just even without the goals, Minter was just brilliant yesterday. So as I say, I'm now going to talk about the shape. I'm now going to talk about stats, because we have very much this season been a team where we've probably had less of the possession than we did under De Zerbi or even Potter. But yesterday, I think the possession stats would have shocked most people. Brighton had 30% possession. 30. And to me, that's just not the Brighton we've seen since Graham Potter took over. We're so used to having the majority of the ball. And one of my long-standing criticisms of Brighton since before Herzler, before De Zerbi, so Graham Potter, this is on you, bud. It's that age-old sort of IT crowd reference. The problem with Brighton is they want to walk it in. But yesterday we scored 3 goals, and we didn't try and walk it in. We were quick. We were direct. We didn't faff about. The press was excellent. Welbeck made the 3rd goal by putting pressure on Colwell high up the pitch. The first goal, long ball over the top, great touch from Mitoma. The second goal was probably more of a Brighton-esque goal where you got lots of really good interplay with a nice little finish. But Brighton were quick, they were direct, and they were everything I've wanted them to be this season, and they did it all with 30% possession. So some other stats: we had 13 shots to their 8. We had 5 on target to their 0. We had 6 off target to their 6. We blocked 2 attempts outside the box, 5. We hit the woodwork once. We had 1 one-on-one attempt. XG from open play was 1.61. So that's very good considering how many we scored. And defensively, our stats were excellent as well. 20 tackles, 11-1, 12 fouls, 32 clearances. 32 clearances, 15 of which were headers, 53 duels won. It was a really sort of solid performance. And it's one that we haven't necessarily seen of Brighton. We're so used to seeing us moving the ball across the park quite nicely, lots of little short passing. And then we get to like the final third and we lose our heads a little bit. But yesterday was not that at all. And I just really want to give Hurdzler credit. Like, I absolutely lambasted him after the Forest game, as I think he rightfully deserved to be. And I think it speaks volumes to him as a coach and to the players as well, that we were able to come off the back of that performance and beat Chelsea twice. I think there is, we do tend to play better against the Chelseas of the world than we do the Southamptons, which is why next week will be such a thing for me. But I really like the shape we employed, the sort of the 5-4-1, off the ball, and then sort of going to a back 3 without it. It just worked, and it just seemed to click with the players we have. And I really hope that moving forward, that's the sort of system that we employ as well. Because I think Minte is a great wing back. Lamptey's a better wing back than he is a full back. We've got the defenders in Webster, Veltman, and Van Hecke to play a back 3. I will not hear that we do not have the players to play a back 3, because we do. So yeah,
it's great. Quickly about our game management as well.
Go for it.
Even though we were 3-0 up, I said it as much in the chat, and you guys probably laughed at me. I didn't feel comfortable even having scored the third. But it was really good to see us still do those game management tactics of getting the ball to the corner and just clearing it away into space, chase the ball. We saw it in the FA Cup game as well, when we really had to stick in and do some game management tactics as well. And it's something that I was like screaming for Hurdzler to get into this team, to grind out results like that, especially after Wolves, Leicester, things like that, where we had a 5-on-1 against Wolves and it didn't come to anything, and it eventually ended up Wolves went on up the other end and scored. So it's good that we're seeing them learn these really harsh lessons as well. And it's something that I'm giving Fabian Hurdzler a lot of credit for. I've been his harshest critic, and I've been very quick to hold myself accountable for losing my head after the Crystal Palace game and saying that he should go. I was very angry about the 7-0 loss, but I don't think fans should get at each other because of being angry after a 7-0 loss. I think, it's one of our worst in our history, not just the Premier League. So yeah, I'm really happy to see them learning together and showing that they've learned. And yeah, just full credit to Fabian Hurdzler for getting that across to his players.
It's a sign of maturity, Joe, in this team. Like I think part of the issues that we've seen in the past is a young group who are trying so hard to do what is being asked of them from a manager in terms of playing a certain way. And then you end up sort of twisting yourselves in knots, and then you create that turnover, which hurts you going back the other way. And yeah, we're just seeing now a team who appeared to be more comfortable in their own skin. They're happy to hack it away and then reset, which is great to see. 5 clearances by Baleba yesterday alone. And yeah, we're just starting to see that sort of maturity come together. And I don't know how much you wanted to necessarily talk about Hurdzler, Tom, down the back half stretch of this podcast. But I mean, we're seeing a team adapt and move in certain directions to what hasn't worked, learning lessons and growing from those lessons. And if that's all you can ask for as a fan, like particularly after the De Zerbi era, where we saw a team make the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, suffer the same losses and draws against lower ranked teams over and over and over again. And we never really saw those adjustments that we were looking for. And that was really the final nail in the coffin. If it wasn't for a bit of inertia between him and front office about who they should sign in the summer. And there was some real poetry to the fact that Maresca, in the lead up to this game, wanted to praise his mate, Roberto De Zerbi, and point out what a fantastic manager he is, and provide a no comment when asked about what he thinks about Fabian Herzler. And then we see a game where Brighton and Hove Albion have 30% possession. Normally we're the 70% possession team and we don't create anything, and we get done going the other way. There were some great, don't get me wrong, there were some great memories and moments from the De Zerbi era, but that's what I remember the De Zerbi era to be. And the fact that we De Zerbi'd Chelsea after Maresca had said those things, again, chef's kiss.
You are right, Phil, that I think it's just a certain level of irony, isn't there, really? Because obviously the two mates there. And I do want to talk about Herzler, because there's, as there always is after a loss, there's criticism. And as there always is after a win, there's a lot of joy. What I don't like is when we do win, and then you get people going, "Oh, where are all the Herzler criticizers now?" It's like, well, winning 2 games doesn't mean that Forest didn't happen, but just like losing to Forest doesn't mean that we didn't beat Manchester City. It's the thing that really just irks me about the whole rhetoric on social media, especially, is this inability to see all this stuff in the middle. It's not, the loss to Forest doesn't define Herzler, as angry as I was. And the win yesterday, as great as that was, that also doesn't define Herzler. And I still think the jury's out on, how successful he's going to be as a coach. But that doesn't mean that I don't think he shouldn't be given time. The two aren't mutually exclusive. You can believe both things. I want Herzler to stay. I believe he should be given the rest of this season and even next season, barring any sort of massive disasters. But for me, it's all well and good winning this game against Chelsea, but if we then go and struggle or lose to Southampton, that's where we need to have a bit more of an in-depth discussion or in-depth sort of view as to where we are, as to where he is in his journey, and that's okay. It's okay to criticize when we play badly, and it's okay to praise when we play well. It's not one or the other. You can do both. You can do both. And there's just another thing that Dagan wanted us to touch on. Apparently, De Zerbi, after the Forest game at the training pitch on the Monday, Herzler burned the tactics for that game. And one of the comments we had from Andy T on Blue Sky was / is Herzler ball what we saw against Chelsea Forest back in September. The high press swarm with no midfield. Has he finally give up trying it since he burnt it after Forest? And I think Dagan just wanted to clarify this whole no midfield thing, because against Forest, we had no midfield because it was just Jack Hinshelwood. So we literally had one midfielder who was left isolated a lot of the time. But the whole no midfield thing doesn't actually mean no midfield. It just means bypassing the midfield in your build-up, because teams are so good now with their rest defense shapes and their pressing, their counter pressing. The middle of the park has become this very congested part of the pitch where it's very hard to sort of play your football. So teams like Liverpool and Arne Slot have, bypassed the midfield by creating passing triangles out wide, and then sort of like the midfielders sort of split out wide a little bit to form these triangles out here. Dagan asked for this. I do apologize. Like so. So here's my tactics board. Bet you didn't think you were going to get this tonight, did you? So yeah, let's say this is for Labour and Hinchelwood. No midfield doesn't mean they're up there like they were against Forest with it when it was Pedro and Ruta. It just means that they were coming out wide, out here, as the wingers, and so we've got little passing triangles. And again, I'm doing this like in the reverse, so I do apologise for the poorness of it all. So your fullback's pushing up there, you've got a nice little passing triangle. Again, no midfield because you're bypassing it by going out wide. No midfield. So it doesn't actually mean no midfield. It just means you're just bypassing it.
And who is saying that there's no high press anymore? There might not be a high defensive line, but we were pressing Chelsea in the 94th minute yesterday. There's still a press, and it's still high up the pitch. So it's just that he's dropped the defensive line back a little bit. And I think yesterday was probably the perfect example of Fabian Hurtzler ball in its finest form. I saw Jack Hinchelwood and Baleba drop when they needed to play passes out from the back. So yeah, I think we're going to see it the more that this team gets to know it. I think it's maybe a system that's taking a little bit more time to implement than the couple of changes that De Zerbi had to make from Potter ball to De Zerbi ball. So yeah, I don't think it's a case of he's scrapping his ideas and we'll never see what Fabian Hurtzler's about. I think that was the perfect example.
Yeah, I think it's just being adaptive.
We don't need to have a referendum on Fabian Hurtzler as the manager of the football team after every game. I think that's one thing to point out. But yeah, the tactics and the formation and everything against Southampton again, which could be a game that looks very different, they're going to be fascinating. That those, as we have alluded to, those have been the type of games that we've struggled to score goals in. Because, and just sort of recapping part of what we were just talking about, like, I thought the game management against Man United recently, when we went up 2-0 against Ipswich, it wasn't just in the last week. Like, I think there have been signs going further back that the game management stuff is starting to sink in with this group. Then we obviously saw the Everton loss where, again, we had a lot of the ball and struggled to kind of break down the opposition defense and actually score. And that could be the situation this weekend where we're the team that is being asked to go and be the aggressor and try and break down the opposition's defense and actually score the goal. So yeah, this match against Southampton is going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating to see what kind of tactics Fabian comes up with, and whether we do see that same sort of back five setup that we saw against Chelsea.
So let's look ahead then, Joe, because as Tom says in the comments, we have, and this isn't a Hurtzler thing, we have struggled against teams towards the bottom. How do you see us setting up against Southampton, and are you confident we can get a result?
I mean, I think going away from home is probably a little bit better for us. Obviously, we went to Ipswich and beat them 2-0. Obviously, we had our struggles against them and rode our waves as we needed to. And I think that's what we're going to do against Southampton. I think they're a team that are really struggling for confidence down at the bottom of the Premier League, and we need to take advantage of that. We need exactly the same starting 11. Hopefully everyone's fit this week and there's no injuries picked up in training. Don't fix it if it ain't broke, and just go for it. Play the exact same system, and if we have to invite Southampton onto us a little bit for us to then break them down that way, then I don't see why we shouldn't be changing our tactics. in that sense, and just try and invite that pressure on a little bit if that's how we thrive. But obviously, playing against Southampton, you don't know what they're going to do or if they're going to counteract that. So it's going to be an interesting tactical battle, and I think it's something where we should be going and winning, hopefully comfortably. But of course, this is Brighton, and we don't do anything easy. So yeah, I'm like on the fence, Tom, completely on the fence.
Not either or. That's disappointing. Phil, what do you think, Southampton? I mean, I think when we played Southampton early in the season, I thought for the most part they were probably the better team. Do you think we'll, obviously different coach, but do you think we'll see a similar, buoyant Southampton, or do you think it will be a bit more of a walk in the park, as arrogant as that may sound?
I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park, but I do get the sense, they've, like us, they've got 13 more games left this season. They're 10 points below Wolves in 17th. And this is a home game against a mid-table team. I mean, it's not inverted commas. We're a mid-table team right now, basically. So if Southampton don't go into this game trying to win, I'll be shocked. Like, if they have any interest in staying up, they should be trying to claim all 3 points in this game. So that means they should probably go into this game with like a level of positivity, which is what we might need, to find some of those holes and gaps and opportunities going back the other way. So I would be shocked if Southampton going in this game trying to sit back and play for survival like they might on the road in a fixture like this, but at home, like they have to go for all 3 points, right?
Yeah, they do. You're right, and that, as you say, that might play into our hands just a little bit better. So, just as we end the show, then, gents, can I get a score prediction for Southampton, please? Joe, I'll come to you first.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, let's go confident. 4-0 Brighton. Why not?
Crikey. How about you, Phil?
Off the back of my little spiel there, I will assume that Southampton go into this game trying to win, which gives us a better opportunity to win, I believe. And look, our defense has been pretty rock solid. So 2-0.
I
just want to remind people that Phil predicted the Manchester City game absolutely spot on, and we even clipped it because I'm sure he can see the future. So put your bets on Brighton winning 2-0.
I then went and predicted that we'd beat Fulham and someone else, and yesterday was our first win at home since Manchester City. So.
Phil, that is context that I do not need.
Who needs context? I'm going to go with 2-1 to the Albion. I think Southampton will score first, and I think I think they'll score first, but I think that we'll come back into it, get 1-1 before halftime, and then I think we'll go on to win. That's what I hope. Anyway, I mean, I hope for actually a 5-0 win, but yeah. Hey-ho. No, but thank you very much to Joe and Phil for joining us this evening. Thank you as well to all the viewers who have contributed to the chat, who have posted on Blue Sky and just generally chatted to us throughout the day to get their talking points across. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more content if you haven't already. Let's hope that the Albion can continue their winning ways against Southampton next time out. But in the meantime, wherever you may be, whenever you may be, we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.